So I just basically wanted to interview you because you took the challenge to make a very cute logo for me, which I think is very funny because I know how we work together, and I figured out during the whole process why. And in finish yet because I'm very sensitive for cute stuff. And during the process, the first thing that you made, I was like, whoa, that's not my kind of cuteness. And then we were looking at different kind of cute stuff. Basically, for people that were not there, I was like, oh, that's really so it must be a very strange way of working together, but I thought it was quite fun. On the other side, I know that you often make monsters, so I thought this was a total different world for you. So how was it to make something cute instead of something like scary?
Oh, for me also it was really a challenge too. I mean, it's like you said. I mean, I'm constantly making monsters, complete different, let's say, anatomy, intentions somehow. And for me, it was really, really exciting too. I mean, like for example, to watch your reactions. You know, for example, like you mentioned about the difference between the concept of cuteness. Yeah, for example, what happened with the eyes. That is very, very interesting. I mean, for me, it was really, really a learning curve, if I could just define it in a way. I mean, because I came from my background is advertising, but normally when you work for companies, you do it in an abstract way. I mean, the chances that you have to actually make a character as a logo are quite low. So for me, it was really, really a challenge. And also because you have a high sensibility about it. So
I basically knew what I wanted.
Yeah, exactly. But I would say the process was completely funny. And also, I think that is the key, somehow to be open, somehow to receive the feedback, and also to keep looking. That's the important thing.
Yeah, so that was something that we were worked on together. So if you would redo the process of making something cute, how would you this time going to approach some project like that?
Interesting. Well, I will start to looking for. I mean, I search for reference a lot, but I think that a little bit what I will improve is just to be certain and quite clear about what cute means for something, you know, because I mean really definition matters a lot, especially when you speak with stuff that is so about sensibility, and that is definitely a part that I will improving for sure, and also having more conversations. I mean, it's like also spontaneous conversations about these kind of topics helps a lot to define and to find the right way. And I don't know, I think it's like in technical terms, I think we did it quite fast. You know, for example, I have and that is awesome, absolutely awesome, because for you, it was very clear from the very beginning where you were looking for. So your concept of cuteness was there. You know? It happened to me very frequently that some clients, they even don't know what actually that concept is. You know, they think in the stuff, and they have many examples on their heads, but they're not clear concept. You know, so you need to search and experiment and test over and over and over, and sometimes that task can be insane. So yeah, I mean, I'm very happy because with you actually it was pretty fast.
I mean, of course, it was like a barrier of like, oh, now I'm going to take my channel to the next level, and of course it was like, oh, the internet, cute stuff.
And also, it was the perfect chance for you for Google so much red pandas.
Yeah, but I have already done that 3 times. But at the mood board phase, I'm like, oh, and then I'm just like. Off the road.
I can relate to, because I mean, like I told you once, I have the same phenomena, but with cats. I mean, I can just be forever searching for cute cats.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah, I think it was a funny way how the communication went, and also like indeed at the first time I was like, wait, this is kind of scary, and I was like, oh, how do I need to explain this? I was like, let's have a meeting to fix this because this is not cute.
This is not cute. That's creepy. It's something where the concept is different. I mean, for example, the eyes. It was a huge topic there. In the moment that we changed the eyes, immediately the concept just settled.
Basically, it was mostly the eyes was like
the eyes.
So it seems that cuteness is very much on the eyes.
Exactly. Yeah, interesting.
I mean, I also didn't want to make it too Asian because then you suddenly came with like Asian eyes, and I was like, well, wait a minute, right? In the end, the best thing for us was mostly just closed eyes because that solved the problem.
Yeah, I think that the shape were already there. I mean, the shape, for example, the head and the body, were already there. Certainly, the expression, I think, was the disagreement. But it's just testing, and like you said, I mean, for example, I took inspiration from some manga eyes, and of course, there is so many, that so much variety there, so it's impossible to know which one is going to connect with your concept.
I think this is the time to spoil it, to also make it in 3D, because you started to also really like the figure itself. I have a little 3D printer, so maybe it will also, see the light. So
yeah, exactly.
Really cool.
Super.
And then, of course, it's a different process, right? Because then you need to put it in a 3D program. Which 3D program are you working in?
Oh, I'm working in ZBrush. For animation, I'm using Blender. But basically, to sculpt everything related with figures for tabletops, board games, I'm using ZBrush.
So you're also a game artist for a lot of board games, like for example, Dragondale. Of course, you already have your thought behind, like, oh, I needed to print it, so I need to not fall over and not bend out. I hope you're thinking about those things, by the way.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
So that is a different way of making game characters, for example, because then you don't have those physical limitations, basically. But how are you approaching it in that way, then?
Like you said, I mean, it's a different process. Somehow you need to have a 3D extension. For example, right now, the challenge with your logo is like the cuteness is all just 2D. So I need to somehow imagine how it will look from behind. That is not there, absolutely not there. And also how to keep this feeling when you look at from the sides. For example, how actually the nose, the curve of the nose will be, how it will look cute still, I think that is the main challenge when you work, for example, on a 3D character. You need to think in all angles, try to get the best from all these angles. And that's requires a lot of skill, I would say. It's not impossible. We are not speaking about rocket science, but you need to think in this third dimension, and how will be a turntable, how will look, how the light will affect the figure. There's some technical considerations, for example, that when you put details, how deep these details should be, what is the scale of the figure, because all those affect the final result.
Of course, the skill is the more you do it, the better you get. But like, for example, time-based, like what kind of way is this fastest way to practice this skill? Oh,
I mean, for example, if you already have a concept, there is a process that we call blocking out, and you start with basic shapes. In this particular case of your logo, I started with just a sphere, and then just adding two more spheres just to make the ears. There is a process within ZBrush which is called Dynamesh, which somehow merge all these figures, and then you can start to sculpt similar to the clay process. I mean, it is faster and it's convenient. Always start with basic shapes, basic geometries, and then you start to add details on top.
Yeah, I know some people also like to also draw the side views, but are you also doing that? Or is it more like, I place the shapes in and I turn it around and then see if the shapes feel comfortable?
It depends for me from the concept. I mean, if you, for example, if you are working for a client and that client has a clear concept of every view, of course, you just need to follow what is that? For example, if you have just a sketch, you need to figure it out within the process. This is a frequent mistake from some illustrators. They tend to add some stuff on top that at the end is too much or is a problem when you animate. You need also to have some technical parameters there. For example, some clothing where the clothes intersect, how it will bend. Is it practical? I will give you a nice example because I love mechas. I love robots and all that stuff. Right now, I'm working for a client. The basic concepts is from an old series called Robotech from the 80s. When I started to make the concept, because I have all the views, I have all the reference, then when I start to apply the basic shapes and I start to make the sculpting, actually the structure itself was not making any sense. It was unpractical in the way that it was designed. But all these mistakes are easily solved when you animate because you can choose what to animate. But in 3D, you can't choose. If there is something blocking the free movement of the leg, you need to basically to redesign that. It's a very interesting way to discover how functional could it be? For example, when I was a kid, I was dreaming, why all these people are not making all these awesome robots? And then you go there to design it, make it, and they say, wait, this absolutely makes sense.
It doesn't make sense.
Makes sense. Yeah. Absolutely.
It's your first one, so I think it's the one that you're the most proud of. That's often the case, right?
Yeah.
Then how many hours in this project?
It depends.
That robot?
Yeah, it depends a lot on the iterations also. But I will say, for example, this is very highly detailed. So that took like 1 week to have the figure, the basic figure, 2 more days to add the details. But within that process, you have a lot of hours that are coming and going with feedback. Especially for this project, me and my client, we had a lot of discussions about the final pose, and that is time consuming. That is why it's so important to make at the beginning, to have an agreement about the final pose at the end, because that has a lot of impact within the deadlines.
So that would be something that if you would give yourself advice as an artist, like the artist, like, how long are you an artist, by the way?
I have been working as a graphic designer around 17 years.
So if you go back to your Gastón from 17 years ago, then this would be one of your advices, right? To really be sure about the pose, for example. And what else would be your advice when you just started? What would be if I knew this?
I would say I try more. When you start, the human beings start by imitating a style, by imitating, but I think the experimental phase is absolutely important. You allow yourself to make your own ways, for example, to take your time to discover new tools that will make your life absolutely easier. For example, if you find an add-on that can solve a lot of stuff, just go and get it. Of course, some add-ons require money, but if you can find an alternative that is open source and is free for you, just use it.
What are your favorite add-ons then?
For example, now I'm working with Blender, and I think there is an add-on that is about UV mapping. For example, for retopology, now Blender has an add-on that comes with the program called B-Surface. Makes your life super extra easy. For example, the UVs is a process where you just add the texture, but the texture need coordinates. This process is very tedious sometimes, just to create all this stuff, and it's absolutely boring sometimes when you have a very complex figure. Now, luckily, this process has become more easy thanks all these tools. So I will recommend to search for more tools and not be afraid. And also the basis of making anatomy, for example. That is really important. Composition, lighting, illumination, everything that can help you to improve, to make an awesome piece of artwork probably that will be my best advice. It's like, go and do it.
Yeah. I mean, I asked your advice, right? I didn't ask someone else's advice. So that's just. I'm scrolling into other stuff. They're all from Dragondale, right?
Yeah.
How long did it took, that project?
Oh, that project, I mean, to make the pieces, specifically the pieces, it took a month. It took a month not to have the pieces sculpted. It took a month because there was a special requirement that, for example, to have a special hole on top where you can insert a token.
Oh, okay.
Take a look on top of the figures, for example, and you will look, there is a hole there for the tokens. All these pieces should be stakeable too. So this functionality need to be checked. So that's the reason why it took more. And also because feedback, of course. There was a lot of feedback because of the material. These pieces were not printed using resin. Therefore, the details tend to disappear faster. There is some special requirement for the details. Resin is better. You just can put thinner lines, thinner details, and there will appear because of the material. But in this case, require more effort.
I see. Yeah, because it's cheaper to make, right? That's most likely
exactly.
The reason, yeah.
And also because of durability. Resin figures are more fragile. And in this case, because they
can't survive a table.
Exactly. I mean, you're constantly manipulating. In this case, and you're turning around the piece, it will be a lot of manipulation there. So, yeah, so that's basically the reason behind it.
And then when I scroll further, you also made something for Rebirth?
Rebirth. Okay. Yeah. I understood. Yeah. Rebirth actually is a nice project because it's a game from Rainer Knizia, and the publisher is Mighty Boards. And Mighty Boards is really famous. They have a lot of nice games there. It's a company from Malta. And Rainer Knizia is one of the most renowned game designers of tabletop game, not tabletop, but board games. He's German, and he has a huge amount of games, like 3,000 or something like that. And just by chance, I mean, I was sending my portfolio, and they contacted me, and they asked me to create these pieces, which seems to be simple, but it took a lot to make them. It's amazing how the more simplest stuff takes more, because I had to fulfill, for example, production conditions. This is a special material. It's not plastic. It's some kind of sustainable resin, and the molds were special. I had to make a lot of iterations and also try respecting all this production consideration to follow the initial artwork. That took a lot.
Okay, so the artwork you didn't make, only the figures, right?
Exactly, yeah. Okay. For example, if you can see, there is a piece there, a specific piece, the castle. The cathedral is stakeable too. Yes, I can see. And the lines also need a special size. They should be at least 3 millimeters deep too, you know. So that is something that you need to constantly measure. If you, for some reason, you need to remake the piece because you are sculpting it, you need to also to add again and respect again the size of the line. So it's a constant process of refinement. By the way, I have the pieces here. Maybe I can show you.
Yeah, that's maybe not good with this background.
No.
Okay. Oh yeah, there it is. Yeah.
There it is. Yeah. That's a little bit this is the final result. Maybe the tricky part here is to keep all these details, reduce amount of space. That's a trick. The lines require some measurements, so every line counts. You know?
Yeah, for sure.
Exactly.
You even made a Gengar, I see.
Oh yes, I love Gengars. With evil eyes. Yes. That's my cuteness.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. That's something that needs to be checked. Now you learn a new cuteness.
Yeah.
Okay. So that are your 3D things. I'm also going to scroll down on your 2D portfolio. Then you basically focus also on making the artwork for the booklets. Or do you also design where they putting the text for like the information? Or is that more the design decision?
No, in this case, the decision were already made. I mean, the structure of the books were already made. My mission was just to design it, to make the layout, add icons. I mean, make it look beautiful. Well, it's also a task because because the rules are in constant revision until the very end. You need to constantly modify stuff there. But what I'm very happy with this work is actually that they allow me actually to use all my creativity somehow to create the feeling of the game. So what I brought into the table was the unifying all these concepts that they were working on and create a unified vision, specifically for Dragondale. And right now I'm currently working in another project, but I have a non-disclosure agreement, so I cannot give so many details. But I'm doing the same, and actually I love it. I think I love to design board games.
That's one of the reasons why I interview Inides, because I know any. So you're like tripping up, like, oh, it's something interesting, but I can't talk about it. Okay. Oh well.
And you know what? For me, board games is a whole new concept for me. I mean, in Latin America, I was not so exposed to the socialization and to somehow the phenomena, the board game phenomena, because it's very interesting that you can sit with so many people, just to spend hours playing even complex games, And my very first time, I was here in Berlin, and I played Dragondale, actually, the prototype, and the amount of rules, it was insane. I don't know, I was very basic. I was just knowing how to play cards, maybe not even poker, very basic stuff. And for me, it was a shock. It was really a cultural shock to spend 1 hour just to learn the rules. That was wow.
So before, like board games, you were more into making video games, or is that not how it went? Or did you just do marketing of other stuff?
Oh, I just started with marketing, and after a rough way in marketing, I decided to change, because I was always passionate about video games. It was my dream. I mean, I just started. I'm about to be 44 years old. So I have played a lot. Atari, you name it. Sega, Dreamcast. And I remember clearly that my very favorite game when I was a kid, it was Sonic the Hedgehog. It was my very first experience. It was, oh my gosh, that is awesome. And since then, I mean, I think I was maybe 10 years old when I saw the first Sonic the Hedgehog, and it was, wow, amazing. See all these pixels, all these wonderful animations, colors, stages. The whole thing was wonderful for me. So it was a dream, and unfortunately, where I came from is Chile. In Chile, we don't have a market. And when I was young, it was absolutely impossible to follow this dream. And it's like something just for hobbyists, basically. Back then, I learned to program, actually. I know a little bit of C++. I learned it at the school, but later I couldn't develop my career further. I mean, my sole intention was actually to make video games. With no one supporting you, no market, it's impossible to make a life of that. So later I focused my career in marketing and advertising. And there I learned graphic design, and I started to work as an artist for advertising agencies.
And are you still doing that on the side, or are you now full-time freelance?
Yeah, I still doing it, but there is a thing that when you just, I don't know, I'm just so fed up with somehow with advertising. I'm doing it quite well. After so many years, I can do it quite well. But the problem is not my passion anymore. I mean, I don't feel that my core is there. It feels like a little bit like the stuff that you need to do for a living. And that's why games hit me so hard somehow. When I started to work in Adamara Harsh Waters as animator, for me it was an explosion. It's like a whole different universe. Right now I'm struggling, to keep doing what I'm doing right now, which is board games and video games. It's my dream.
And it's like why you're now like really focused on like upping your portfolio and keep on getting gigs, basically.
Yeah, exactly. And everything helps for me. It's just to get recognition, to help sometimes. Every work you need to make your way, at the end. Especially if you work as a freelancer. It's
Yes.
really hard way. Exactly. You need to sacrifice, you need to give so much of your time, You need to commit so much. Whatever you're doing, for example, I was trying to learn some Unreal, absolutely wonderful, but you need to commit,
Yes.
So all those hours you need to invest them. It's a hard way, but at the end, it's where you get more reward. The reward right now is to make 3D art.
I also know, of course, your wife, and she is also doing the freelancing with her own company. Do you think that kind of influenced your vision on that?
Yes, I think it's independence, totally. I think for me, what I love as a freelance and influenced me a lot is like to have the freedom to decide, to propose. That in an agency is not so much, because you have a lead artist, you have a creative director that impose somehow the rules, which is okay. There is some criteria that you need to follow, because if you're working for a company, there is already a brand book, there is already a lot of rules that you need to follow. And these guidelines, you need to respect them because someone paid for them. Freelance is a little bit the same, but there is more room.
Yes, stretching room, and with everything can be discussed. I think that's mostly the freelance thing. So you need to discuss anything, otherwise.
Yeah, exactly. For example, that is something that happened with your logo, for example. That is awesome, because you told me, okay, this is cuteness, this is what I'm looking for. I have the freedom to introduce something, to present you something, and then we can discuss about it. But I had that freedom, When you work in advertising and market, you don't have that freedom. It's a square, and you just need to be creative in there.
Would you have advice for people that are like, oh, I want to be a freelance artist, but how can I do it? And like, especially now, of course, we see the danger of AI, of making it even harder for artists. But how do you think that you can still sustain yourself as a freelance artist?
I'm learning still in the hard way, and I think that a lot is about networking. Contact with people, just to take the time to. I know that requires some resources to go to conventions, to fairs, but if you don't do it, you will always have the risk to be in the endless line of emails that no one will respond. The chances to be in the spam are quite high. Of course, the fact that going and meet people there is not going to guarantee anything, but it's far better than just be one more in the ocean of the emails. Unless, and this is also an advice that I could give me, unless you have a terrific, incredible, outstanding, amazing portfolio. For that, you need to also to invest time. It's like you can have 5-10 pieces, but they need to speak by itself. It's like you don't need to explain anything. It's that you just seen. It's like what you're seeing is awesome. Okay, I want to work with this person. That is paramount, I would say. But it's paramount too to make the efforts to go and meet people.
Getting contacts are maybe even becoming clients or people that you work together, and kind of a snowball effect being known in the industry, basically. That's what I hear out of it.
And the last advice I would say is like, don't be afraid, show your work. Sometimes I suffer a lot before to start to work in video games and work in 3D or 3D sculpting. I was suffering a lot of this syndrome, imposter syndrome, because I was coming from a different industry. Even if I was capable to do a lot of stuff, I was suffering it and saying, oh, will people just contract me? Will people choose my work? It is good enough. And I think as an artist, it's really a topic. It's really an issue for us. So don't be afraid. Just do it. The worst answer that you will get is just a no.
Do you have some groups for artists that you're also in? I don't know, maybe some Discord group or some groups on other social media to just like say, these people are very welcoming to new artists?
For example, I mean, there's a huge community in ArtStation too. Just ask questions there. Just to speak with other artists, and maybe they will contact you with someone else. For example, regarding video games, here, do game jams, for example. There is a Berlin game jams groups in here. It is all remote. This kind of stuff is really helpful. Just to by randomly connect with people, maybe you, a partner, go there and just start to connect with a programmer. If you're a programmer, you connect with a graphic designer, artist, and you can start to, in 1 hour, I think 4 hours maybe, you can develop your own mini game. But that's the trick. I mean, like for sure there are more groups, but I don't remember right now. I don't have any in the face because I have a lot in Discord.
I also have my experience of the game industry, of course, and my vision. But the thing is, like, in the game industry, networking is really important. It's like weirdly how important it is. But you also come from the marketing industry. Do you also feel that in the marketing industry, networking is as important as in the game industry?
It is, but I would say that in a very strange way, weird way, it was easier for me in marketing. Maybe because my portfolio, my marketing portfolio was very powerful for the standards. I believe that my portfolio was making a huge difference there. I think that both industries have the same problem. I mean, there's so many of us. There's so many artists. There's so many programmers out there. The competition is huge. In advertising, it's the same. But like I said, I mean, this is paramount to have a good portfolios, to work and take the time to make it and to fulfill the requirements, technical requirements, what they are looking for. I know for sure that if you want to be a 3D character artist, you need to be very good with fundamentals, for example, like anatomy. You don't need to be an expert. You don't need to memorize all the muscles, but you will need to be able to have a sense of proportion first. That is basic. And then you need to fulfill other kind of technical skills, like, for example, how to rig a character, how to do correct rate topology. I mean, for example, rate topology flow. How do you make the UVs? What is your process? Which program are you using?
I mean, also teacher, and we give feedback on topology and whatsoever. But how can you get feedback on these things if you're not in the school or with a group? Like, how do you double check your own topology or UV mapping?
Oh, I think there's plenty tutorials there oriented to production. You can check your pipeline there with different artists. You can, of course, there is some free in YouTube. But for example, I got some of them. I bought some of the one of a page called Nomon Workshop, which is a very famous studio in California, I believe, where the standards are industry standard for films and for video games. If you, for example, you follow a course there or you download this, you can have a glimpse of what is industry doing right now. There's plenty that you can double check. It's not magic. I mean, it's not like it's like a Pandora's box. I mean, the knowledge is there.
it's
you
more
need
like
to check.
for example, like the free assets that you can randomly get from the internet, and you add in your engine or whatsoever, and you're like, oh my gosh, how has this been made? When you check what has been made, right? And these resources, maybe when you don't have like all the investments, for example, you look at them and you're like, wait, okay, I guess this is good or this not. So that's why I wanted to ask further, like, okay, so how do you get that knowledge if you don't have a mentor or whatsoever?
Obviously by practicing a lot, and the practices say so much, because I mean, if you have a topology like it's crazy topology, like no respecting any flows, in the moment that you start to animate, you will face the nightmare. So it's already there. you will face in odd movements, you will face all bendings, artifacts, all kind of stuff. Because I started in the very same way, I started like, I'm going to do my 3D stuff, and I didn't know anything about topology flow, for example. For me, it's like, in the moment that rigging and make the animation process is like, what the hell? Why is that happening?
Okay.
That looks weird, of course. And then you realize that everything is easy if from the beginning you learn the fundamentals and you see where actually is the flow of the mesh. For example, in the joints. What is the right flow for facial expressions? It's the half of the way, because at the end, these fundamentals will just stay with you forever in everything that you will do. You can self-taught that, definitely.
Yeah, I just wanted to get a bit more in depth with that topic, of course.
Absolutely, because sometimes some candidates, they don't know why they are rejected, and that is the reason. The reason is the director, the people who is selecting, is going to examine your work. Is going to see the flow and will say, okay, these fundamentals are there. For example, if you are capable to bring the character into Unreal or into Unity successfully, that is also a plus. That is a technical knowledge that they are looking for. Companies are not schools. They're not going to teach you.
No, they're not going to. No, otherwise you're doing an internship, right? So that's
exactly.
We set up this meeting to get a bit more in depth of the artist view, right? So from marketing, were you always like a person that liked to draw and like making all your cubes already, or did you just went into art a higher age, or was it like you were also the person that I drew my favorite characters when I was 7?
The second one. I was trying to say. Definitely. I always had passion for drawing. I still doing it, actually. I'm still sketching stuff. Now they are not so cute. They're more like monsters and all that stuff. But yeah, I mean, I started with like I told you, I was a huge fan of Sonic the Hedgehog. So I was all the whole time I was just drawing Sonic everywhere.
I see. Okay, yeah.
And it's funny because I mean, there is a character actually that I remember that I was drawing so much. Actually, that was the precise moment when I made the transitions from 2D to 3D. I loved to play arcades, and I discovered Tekken 1.
Okay, I see.
Yeah, and I was, my whole life just watching 2D, and suddenly there was Tekken, and I was, that's awesome! It's like, oh my god! And I started to draw Heihachi Mishima, which is the evil character, and I just was all day long with that. So that's the 3D got stuck in my mind from that very, very moment.
Okay, interesting. And beautiful that you go from your passion and you're now like being a freelance artist, having already some interesting board games on your name and things we cannot talk about because of reasons.
NDA. Secret stuff. UFO stuff.
Yeah, exactly. But I'm very happy that we had this conversation to go a bit more in depth on the side of an artist. And yeah, I will wish you a lot of luck with your future endeavors in this in this weird world of freelance artists, board games. Let's see what we are going to see from Gastón. Thank you very much for watching, and this was a very special episode. Maybe in the future also with experts, but this is a very special episode. So thanks for watching. See you in the next one.
See you.
Bye.
Bye.